Generally calm people of Reddit, what made you lose your absolute shit that time? My 7th ducking trip to the DMV when trying to reinstate my license. Every single time they scrutinized my paperwork and always managed to find something wrong and would send me a way to fix it. On this 7th trip, they finally resorted to, "You have no proof that you ever had a license," despite my piles of paperwork showing my driving record, among other things. I refused to leave the seat and said, "You people are fucking monsters." A manager was called. We argued. He said he believed that I had had a license, but there was just no proof, and he couldn't risk accepting my paperwork in case someone checked it. I said I refused to leave the seat until I knew exactly what was needed. Manager said, "Tell you what, I can contact last state I lived in, and could get a verification that I had had a license there. It would take 3 minutes. That's when I yelled in the DMV, "Why wasn't that the first fucking thing you said?" Anyway, I got my license back. When trying to get my wife switched to our new state, they needed a birth certificate because reasons. Apparently they needed the original and not the copy the hospital gave her mother. A DMV hate troll looked her in the eye and said with a straight face, "This isn't a birth certificate, it's just a certificate that says you were born." This was our 4th attempt also. I had a similar "I'm not ducking leaving until you give me in writing exactly what else you need to finish this simple transaction" meltdown moment. I had the same thing when I went to get my passport. The lady was nice though and explained that for the state I was born in the time I was born in, there was some security breach so they couldn't accept the certain type of birth certificate. I went 23 years using that thing and never had a problem until then. New Jersey? I had the same thing. When I went to get my passport they said it was invalid, wound up having to go sit in Trenton to get it, and then because the whole process took so long I had to go to DHS in NYC to get a same-day passport the night before my trip. I had things all set up to play piano with a string quartet for a wedding ceremony in church. The grand piano was up front, near the couple, and the organ in the rear to be used later. When I entered the church, I found that the florist had placed a large vase of roses on the grand piano, using the sheet music for the string quartet underneath the vase to absorb water. Rarely do I lose my cool, but I did that time. Members of the string quartet told him in no uncertain terms where he could stick those roses as they tried to salvage their soaked music scores. That's ducked. You don't touch another man's music scores. It was Halloween and I was sitting out the front of my house watching my sister take my niece, who was around 4, trick or treating. The people who lived above us, we lived in a maisonette, decided to shoot a firework at them. This is the only time I've lost my shit. Got them inside the house, made sure they were all right. Sister had only a few non-serious burns on her arm and managed to shield my niece from the explosion. At that point I was just so angry, went up to their door and starting banging on it demanding they come out. They didn't answer, so I started trying to kick the door in. My mom and brother dragged me away and back inside to calm me down. Half an hour later the police arrived because the neighbors had called them about me. Luckily after we explained what had actually happened I didn't get in any trouble. But neither did they. Sorry for it being poorly written, am not the best writer. My wife was due to give birth on a date I had a trial. I'm an attorney. The state's attorney's office refused to consent to a continuance, insisting they were going to be ready for trial that day. The date comes, I go to the courthouse and find out that the SAU doesn't have one of their witnesses and is asking for a continuance. Needless to say I lost my shit arguing against them receiving such a continuance when they had failed to subpoena a witness, or make any effort to contact said witness, by their own admission. The judge, of course, allowed them to have a continuance. I swore I'd never practice in that court again. It's one known around here for being especially friendly to the prosecution, to the point of absurdity, and where the SAU is known to engage in constitutionally questionable evidentiary practices. My wife gave birth the next day, and I've never been back to the jurisdiction. The state ultimately dropped charges against my client because they didn't have a critical witness. That's so ducking ridiculous. Judge should have ordered the continuance despite the objection. And to the SAU, there is absolutely no point in being uncivil to the opposing lawyer. UK lawyer here, so what do I know, but seems like dick behavior all round. Hope wife and the kiddo are well. When someone's kid at Golden Corral decided to put their hands in food containers and they did nothing about it. Reason number 2,654,768 not to eat at Golden Corral. Yay, it go ahead and assume the Golden Corral buffet is contaminated at all times whether you see it or not. Assume all buffets are. I'd been dealing with listening to my dad and his ex-girlfriend have screaming matches and occasionally getting dragged into it for like a year. They started again one evening and she addressed me, demanding me to answer something or another to fuel her argument against my dad. I was just trying to play a game at the time and I just kinda snapped and screamed, "I don't know and I don't care and I'm tired of your fighting." It wasn't much, but I've never raised my voice ever and I think it kinda just stunned them both into silence. She walked out of the house lol. Well, it's pretty ducked up for them to use you as a pawn in their arguments. Maybe they actually felt ashamed of themselves for once. When they brought the third sales manager in, 4 hours into my 90-minute timeshare presentation. This guy at work was cleaning out the work break room. Basically, he was throwing out people's personal belongings. So, I see my new coffee mug I bought specifically for work in the trash and lost my damn mind. I started yelling at him that what he was doing was morally wrong and it's not his stuff to throw out. I went to my hour manager and complained to him about the principle of the thing. I took all of the coffee mugs in the trash out and washed them. #X200B. The good thing is, if you are a calm person 99% of the time, people are more likely to listen to you in the 1% of moments you lose it. Exactly. I used to waitress and never caused any drama. I was there to make money for my wedding. I showed up on time, didn't take smoke breaks, never on my phone, and rolled with the punches. The two best compliments of my life came from my manager. One was him thanking me for not making him know my fiance's name. I never had problems to deal with at work like the other girls and I didn't chit-chat, and when all hell was breaking loose, he called me his calm little Hindu calf, which still makes me laugh. Anyway, this asshole cook wouldn't stop calling me pet names and trying to touch me. Every time I said loudly and clearly, "Don't touch me," and my name isn't Sweetheart, it's Hopeful Kitty. Everyone knew how I felt and tried to tell me that's just how he is, let it go. I told them that the way I am is that I don't want him to touch me. When the manager talked to him, he'd stop for a few weeks, then start again. After months of this, I told the manager if it didn't stop I was going to file a harassment complaint. Manager talked to the owner and asked if he'd rather have the cook or me, because I was on the verge of quitting, and they agreed they'd rather have me 100 times over this dick. Dude was gone by the next day and I got an escort to my car every night. Turns out if you are drama-free and calm, people really listen when you have a problem. My name isn't Sweetheart, it's Hopeful Kitty. Lamau. It's always interesting translating a real-life personal story to Reddit. You can be on a roll laying out the story, then suddenly realize you need to go back and edit to put your Reddit name in place of your real one. Can't wait to read Dick Nipple's story. When my ex-wife's stepbrother told us a story about how he killed his neighbor's cat for fun, and then lied to his neighbor about having not seen it. I have a coworker who told me when he was a kid there was this widow who lived in town who had some cats. Him and his friends would figure out which one she loved the most, trap it, and kill it. I'm still civil with him since we work together, but holy hell does he make me sick. Sounds like a psychopath with no sense of empathy or understanding. My friend, who is usually a chill person, had some girl make fun of her brother who was killed and she ended up beating the shit out of her, smashing her face into the wall, and getting kicked out of our school for it. Back when I was working retail, I was manning the return desk when this woman comes in to return 2 totes full of clearance clothes. She wants to rebuy them all since clearance stuff was now cheaper. That's against the rules and I explain why, but per usual she gets a manager and the manager caves. Since she bought this stuff on 3 different receipts and mixed them all up, this transaction is fixing to take 30 minutes at least, and I am frustrated but hiding it well. 15 minutes and I hear some commotion off to the side. I turn my head and see that this woman's 5 or so completely unsupervised kids have piled onto a flat cart and are pushing it around. I don't know why it set me off so bad, but I pointed and yelled at them, raising my voice for the first and last time during my 10-year stint. The entire place fell silent and the customer was so mad at her kids that she took her stuff and left. A couple coworkers said seeing me get angry was really unsettling. A blessing curse that comes with being the quiet one, I guess. I probably would have ended up fired because I'd have lost my shit on the manager for caving to that bullshit.